There's this moment in old cartoons, and I mean old, like 1960s and 70s old, where a father sits down with his son. It's not to punish him or even to yell, but just to teach him something. To show him how to tie a shoe, or fix something broken, or handle a problem with dignity. It's quiet, it's ordinary. It's the kind of scene that barely exists in animation anymore. And that absence, it says something about us, about what we've decided fathers should be, about what we've lost in the process. See, here's the thing about cultural narratives. They do more than just reflect what's happening in the real world. They shape it. When you grow up watching fathers be the punchline, the incompetent guy bumbling through life while mom holds everything together, you start to believe that's what fatherhood actually is, that it's supposed to be comedic failure, that real parenting is a mother's job, and dads are just there, occasionally useful, usually in the way. But it wasn't always like this. If you go back to the golden age of animation, not just cartoons, but animated films and television, fathers were present. Not perfect, but they were present. They had depth. They had roles that mattered. They taught things. They made mistakes, sure, but those mistakes were treated as moments of growth. Think about it. The original Cinderella, yeah, her father dies, but before he does, he's the only figure who genuinely cares about her well-being. He's gentle. He's the counterpoint to the stepmother's cruelty. His absence is what drives the entire story because his presence mattered. The film doesn't treat fatherhood as a joke. It treats it as something worth mourning. Or look at Pinocchio. Geppetto isn't some buffoon. He's a man of principle. He wants to build something, literally and figuratively. He's flawed, yes. He's not wealthy. He makes questionable decisions, but he shows up for his son in ways that matter. He teaches. He sacrifices. He loves so fiercely that it becomes the entire emotional core of the film. That was the archetype. The father as a complex human being. Imperfect, but intentional. Present, but not perfect. Somewhere along the way, that changed. The shift is subtle at first. By the 1980s and 90s, you start seeing the cracks. Fathers become more absent, not always physically. Sometimes they're right there on screen, but emotionally, they're disappearing. They become side characters in their own children's lives. The real narrative belongs to the mother, or increasingly, just the child. Then came The Simpsons, and with it, the cementing of an archetype that would dominate animation for the next 30 years. Homer Simpson is the turning point. He's not just a bad father, he's comedically a bad father. That's the entire character. He forgets his kids' names. He chokes Bart. He's selfish, lazy, and utterly incapable of basic parenting. And the show knows this. It's the joke. And because The Simpsons was so culturally dominant, it became the template, the default, the way we now understood fathers in animation. After Homer came Peter Griffin, then Randy Marsh, then Jerry Smith, then Stan Smith. The list goes on. An entire generation of animated father figures defined entirely by their incompetence, by their inability to parent, by their status as the family burden rather than the family backbone. And here's what gets me about this shift. It didn't happen by accident. There were cultural and industry reasons for it. First, there was the genuine cultural backlash against the traditional father figure. And look, that backlash had reasons. The 1950s ideal of the authoritarian dad who controlled everything, who never showed emotion, who ruled the household with an iron fist, that wasn't actually healthy. That needed to be challenged. It deserved to be challenged. But what happened instead was overcorrection. Rather than evolving the archetype, we killed it. We didn't replace the cold, distant, controlling father with a warm, present, emotionally intelligent one. We replaced him with a joke. Second, there was the economic reality of animation. Comedies sell. Fathers being incompetent is funny. It gets ratings. It's easier to write. A father struggling to understand his daughter's passion? That requires depth. A father accidentally destroying everything because he's too stupid to parent? That's a punchline. One's harder. One sells better. Third, and this is uncomfortable to say out loud, there's been a cultural shift in how we talk about masculinity. And I'm not saying that shift is entirely wrong. We should be critical of toxic masculinity. We should challenge the idea that men have to be stoic and emotionless and dominant to be real men. But somewhere in that conversation, we decided that the safest masculinity for media was incompetent masculinity. A father who's too stupid to be threatening is a father you don't have to worry about. The problem is what that teaches. A generation of kids, boys and girls, are growing up with a cultural narrative that says fatherhood is inherently incompetent. That if your dad is actually present and engaged, that's unusual. That if he actually teaches you something or has his own internal life, that's surprising. We've normalized the absent father so completely that the present one becomes the anomaly. Look at modern animation now. There's Encanto. The father, Agustin, is comedically useless. Turning Red. The father exists to be confused by his daughter's interests. Soul. The father is, once again, the obstacle to the protagonist's dreams. Even in films that are trying to be progressive about gender, we're still encoding this message. Fathers are the problem. Mothers are the solution. And if a father does show up positively, he's usually either dead or it's treated as a shocking act of competence. There are exceptions. Bob's Burgers exists, and Bob is present and loving and flawed in ways that matter. Finding Nemo gave us Marlin, a father so committed to protecting his son that it becomes a flaw, but a meaningful flaw. These exist, but they're exceptions to a rule that's become almost suffocating in its predictability. And here's what haunts me about all of this. It's not just about representation. It's about what a generation is learning about what they should expect from men, from their fathers, from themselves if they become fathers. Because the message is clear. Fathers are peripheral. They're optional. They're comedic relief in the serious business of parenting. And if that's the only model you see, in cartoons, in TV shows, in movies, then that becomes your baseline for what fatherhood is supposed to be. We've created a cultural script where masculine incompetence is the default, where a father who shows up and is present and teaches his children something is the exception rather than the rule, where the very act of taking fatherhood seriously is treated as either threatening, the strict dad, or ridiculous, the bumbling dad. There's no middle ground. There's no model of what a healthy, present, engaged, emotionally intelligent father actually looks like in the animation we're consuming. And we're losing something because of it. We're losing complexity. We're losing the chance to show men what healthy fatherhood could actually be. We're losing the possibility of a narrative where a father's presence is as important as a mother's, where parenting isn't gendered into one correct way and one comedic failure. The old cartoons understood something we've forgotten. A father teaching his son how to tie his shoe is a moment worth showing. It's not dramatic, it's not comedic, it's just human. And sometimes, the most radical thing animation can do is show us that. Show us a father who is present not as a joke, but as a person, as someone who matters, as someone whose influence shapes the world. That's what we lost when we turned every dad into Homer Simpson. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we got it back.